Today we're going to take a look at trash, but not actual trash, no, the trash game. And this is everything else but trash. This here is made by Ely River Games. It is a 2 to 8 player game, so you can be quite many when playing this game. Now, what I have here in front of me is just a prototype, but it's a well-made prototype, and it will give you just the best idea of how the game actually works. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up the game and how to play it. So let's just take a look at this trash. First, we need to choose a city that we would like to play in. And depending on which city we choose to play in, we need to place out different city tiles in the center of the table. We need to take the city council cards, but also the event cards, and the upgrade cards and the player root decks, and shuffle them. Each player will receive their each set of root cards. Now, these city council members, they have letters on the cards. And depending on which city you are playing, you should pick the cards that has the same starting letter as that city. So if you, for example, are playing the city Istanbul, you should have all the cards with a W. We need to place out the game end matrix, but also decide if we want a short, medium, or long game. Then we need to place out the trash market and put out these little tokens here on each of the different start spots marked out on the market. Now each player needs to take a player board in a color that they would like to portray as. Take the cubes matching the colors of the player board. Take one of these cute little garbage trucks and also some money. How much money you get is depending on which player you are. If you are player 1, you get 5 money. If you're player 2, you get 6. If you're 3, you get 7, and so on. That was the setup of the game. It goes quite fast. It does not take that long time. But once we have set everything up on the table, well, we're ready to start playing this game. This game is played out during 5 different phases. But before we take a look at the different phases, I think we should take a look at your player board. So on our player board, we can see a bunch of different information. If we start by looking up here, with the little thumbs down, this means bad reputation. Throughout the game, you will have multiple chances to do things that are not good and that people probably will not like. So, by doing this, you will gain bad reputation. And this will not be in your favor at the end of the game. But we also have the thumbs up. This is the image. This here represents how good you have been. If you have followed the laws, if you have acted good during the game, you will get better image. The image will also help you if there is any tiebreaker, because if you have a higher image than another player and it is a tie, well then you win that tie. This one up here, the little steer gear, this is the initiative. This determines which turn you have during the game. And this can of course change. The player with the highest initiative goes first. The player with the second highest is number 2, and so on. This container up here represents your capacity. This determines how much trash you can load onto your car. And you cannot load any more trash than you have reached on this. And you cannot have any more trash in your car than you have on this track. The one down here, the little wheel with a hat, this is your style, and this determines how cool your truck looks. At the end of the game, you will be rewarded the cooler your truck is. And this down here, this is the speed value. This determines how many steps you can move in the city. And then we have the influence. The influence determines how many city council members you can bribe. For each point that you have, you can have one more city council members out on your board, meaning these cards right here. And when you get these city council members, well, then you place them on these spots here, but you place them face down. And finally down here we have space for the root cards, the green ones right here. Now they determine where you will go during your turn. Again, once you choose them, you place them face down. And how many steps you can do is determined by this track down here, remember? So if you have 2, then you can have 2 cards, meaning that you can move to these 2 locations during your turn. And that is your player board. Now, these stats here on your player board will of course go up and down, and you will use these little cubes here to show which value you have at the moment. But now that we know this, we're ready to actually start looking at the gameplay. Now, I said that this game is played out during 5 phases, and the first phase is the event phase. And this is simply where a player draws an event card. Now, these event cards can really disturb your gameplay. They can really mess up everything that you have planned. And these cards affects every player. Let's take an example. If we take these 2 events here, for example, we can see that the player stats are affected in different ways. Here our speed will go up, but our initiative will go down. Here our influence will go up, but our image will go down. And here, depending on how much style we have, different things will also affect us. And remember that these affects all players. That was phase number 1. Quite easy, right? You simply draw one of these event cards and every player does whatever the card tells you. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's really bad. Now, the second phase is the restock phase, and this is where we need to restock the city tiles, but also the cards. The farms here, they produce bio waste, and they should have one of these tokens on them during each turn. While these industrial tiles produces industrial waste and should have one of these tokens on them. And the residential areas, they produce household trash and should have one token on them. The power plant produces special waste, meaning these yellow ones here, and should have one token. If there are any upgrade cards left on the garage, we need to remove these and put new ones out. The ones that we remove goes in the bottom of the deck. And then we refill the garage with new upgrade cards. We should have the same amount of cards as there are players, minus 1. This is a 3-player game, so we should have 2 cards. Now, the only exception here is if you are 2 players, because then there needs to be 2 cards and not 1. We also need to refill all the spots out in the city with new trash. But we also need to mine the capacity of each city tile. And that was the restock phase. Not that hard, right? You simply restock whatever needs to be restocked. Now we come into step number 3. This here is the planning phase. And this is where we might get some counseling members into our little council here. Or this is where we get to bribe them at least. So we have these council cards here. And we need to shuffle them now. Then we need to deal out a certain amount of cards to each players. If we are 2 to 6 players, each player gets 4 cards. But if we are 7 to 8 players, we would only get 3 cards. Now, once we have received our cards, we get to choose one and place it down in front of us, face down. Then we take the rest of the cards and we leave it on to the players on our left. Then we will of course receive a new set of cards from our right. Again, we will choose one card and then pass it on. This is the way we will go around the table until all cards have been divided between the players. You can only choose the same amount of council members as you have influence, remember? This player here has an influence of 3, meaning that this player can choose 3 cards and place out on their board. Again, face down. And we should follow these arrows here, because we will reveal them in this order. So you also need to keep a track on which card you would like to have revealed after which card, to get the maximum effect. Once we have planned our counseling members, we also need to plan our route. And again, we can only take the same amount of route cards as we have speed. This player here only has a speed of 2, meaning that they can only get 2 route cards to plan their route. And again, we need to follow these arrows. So we need to plan the routes ahead according to where we actually want to go and where we want to land up in the end. So now we have our counseling members and we also have our route cards. So now we go into phase number 4. This is the execution phase. And no, we won't start to execute players around the table. It's not what this phase is about. This phase is about each player first presenting their council members, meaning flipping them up and doing whatever that card says. Once all players have revealed their councilling members, we start to go into the root cards. And now we need to flip them up to show where our little garbage truck is going. If the space you want to go to might be blocked for some kind of reason, well, then you cannot go there, and then that card will simply just be discarded and gone, and you will move on to your next card instead. Once you have revealed a card where you can actually go, well, then you take your little garbage truck, and then you place that little garbage truck out on the corresponding tile on the table. So now we have our truck out on a city tile in our city. But what do these different tiles actually do? Well, let's take a look at that. At the farm, you will get bio-waste. At the residential areas, you will get household trash. In the industrial areas, you will get industrial waste. And up here on the nuclear plant, you will get special waste. So depending on which of these different city tiles you end up on or you land on, you can pick up different types of trash. The dumping and recycling yard will give you 1 extra cash plus the price indicated on the chart. How much money you will get when you dump the different trash can be seen out on the trash market, and you will gain whatever the different tokens says. You can dump any amount of trash in the parks, lakes or rivers. If you dump in the park, lake or the river, you will get the price indicated on the chart. Plus, it is an illegal move. So if you end up at a spot where the policeman is, well, you will actually go to jail. Which brings us to the police station. Now, you cannot drive here, and you do not want to. Because if you get sent here by doing some illegal actions, you need to pay 2 money. Plus, you get 2 bad reputations, and you get to end your turn immediately. When you end up on a monument, you get to draw an event card and do whatever that card says. And remember, these cards affects every player. And lastly, if you end up on the garage, you get to take one of these upgrade cards. But you also need to pay the price stated on this upgrade. Once you have paid the amount on the card, you have now upgraded your garbage truck. Remember to raise the value on your style out on your player board once you have upgraded your truck. And that's a player's turn. We go through the Congress members, we do our little routes, we throw out our little trucks here on the different city tiles out on the board, we do whatever that tile let us go. We might end up in jail, we might pick up some trash, we might dump some trash and get some money. Once we've done all of that, we go into phase number 5, and this is where we need to check the endgame matrix. As I said at the start of the game, you can choose a short, medium or long game, all depending on what you want. In a short game, you have to complete any 3 of the objectives. They don't need to be in a certain row or anything as long as you have completed them. The medium game will end when you get 3 in a row, column or diagonally. And in a long game, you need to complete 4 of these squares, either in a row, diagonal or vertical. If we have fulfilled any of these, well then the game ends, and it's time for us to see who have won this trash game. First, we lose 1 trash money per trash that we still have in our truck. And then we need to simultaneously change our image but also our bad reputation. And we need to change these according to the lower value of these 2 stats. Meaning that if you have 2 in image but you have 4 in bad reputation, both of these will decrease by 2. So the bad reputation would go up to 2 and the image would go down to 0. But you also need to lose some money depending on how much bad reputation you have. If you do not have any bad reputation, well then you lose nothing. But the more bad reputation you have, the more money you will lose. While style will actually let you gain money. The more style your truck has, the more money you will gain. Besides all of this, we have some last bonus charge, but I will let you read on that by yourself in the rule books because there's quite a few. But for example, if you have the most style, well, you would get 5 extra cash. If you have the least bad reputation, you would get 3 extra cash, and so on. Now, at the end here, once we have calculated everything, we have a winner because the player that has the most cash in front of them wins this trash game. And that, my friend, is the trash game, which actually is not that trashy as it sounds. It's quite fun. And this game is quite competitive. I mean, it's quite a lot about you trying to step in front of the other players, mess up their different routes that they're trying. Maybe they put out a little cop here to stop them, throw them in jail. You take some events that might mess up their plans and also yours. There is a lot of action going on in this game, and what I really like about it is that it's also a lot of symbols. There's not that much text, so it's quite language independent as well. The artwork is fun. It's really about a good, healthy, funny, mean competition. There you have it, my friend. That was the trash game, which is actually not as trashy as it sounds. It's actually quite fun. If you want to know more about the game, well, check out the links down in the description. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, a comment, or whatever you want to. Maybe subscribe to the channel. But most importantly, my friend, please remember to keep on spreading that board gaming love I know you all have. Peace out.